I'm going to talk about due diligence. So this is the process of trying to identify the niche we want to go into. So just high level overview is we're going to try to select a market. We're going to select a niche, and then we're going to go through and we're going to answer some questions about that to try to gauge whether we think this is a good niche to go into or not. And we're going to, after that, after we've chosen it, then we go and we build the website. We get to Google My Business. So just like, let's talk about what this is. So there are some website builders out there that are easy to use. So Weebly is a really easy one. Okay, it's like, I think $8 a month. Maybe if somebody knows, throw it in the chat. I think it's $8 a month. I don't use this, but it's an easy way to get started. Okay, I know that there is Duda out there, which is more expensive. I think it maybe has a little bit, I think it's duda.co. So this is another platform out there. It doesn't really matter which one you choose. I don't personally see like a rankings benefit to one or the other. I know another group that I was in at one point, everyone built it on this, and there's just like thousands of people in this group and people making a ton of money on this. You don't need to have something like super fancy. This is a good way. This is, I think, $8 a month or something. You can get tons of videos on YouTube on how to build this, right? So free YouTube videos that teach you how to build websites on Weebly. You don't have to pay until you actually publish, I think. And I think maybe there's a free version that can have their branding on it. Long term, I would say get the branding off of there and pay the $8 a month or whatever. I think this one is like $10 or $12 a month. And, you know, it's a little bit smoother, tons of stuff in here. And then somebody actually spun off like a white label version of this. But Duda is great. But this is, those would be two choices that you can start with. If you have familiarity, WordPress is one that is more complicated, a little bit harder to use, but it's free. There's no charge. There's no monthly charge. Regardless, if you go with WordPress, you're going to have to pay for a host. This is somewhere where you can kind of store your files and have everything. You have to pay, like, it's essentially you're paying for space on a computer that has access to the internet, and that stuff can be kind of published online. So the website builder, a lot of different choices that you can go with. Once you do that, you're going to want to get your Google My Business. So I am in Ohio. So actually I'll go like this. We'll say Plummer, Dallas, Texas. So just a heads up, this is the Google My Business area. This is the ad area, right? So the Google My Business area is the most important part to rank for local search, which is why the tool that we built pays a lot of attention to this. I put together within our platform here, so whether you're in Lead Generated or LeadSnap, it's the same in both. If you go to research on the left side and then expand due diligence, and then we have this due diligence builder. So I've put together a kind of a worksheet that you guys can use to evaluate markets to see if this is a good niche. Okay, so a worksheet is essentially just a series of questions. Okay, so what I'd love to do is, like, let's have somebody throw in maybe like a city and a niche that they're interested in, and I'll fill this out. So you can see Patrick's due diligence sheet. All right, so the way this works is there's some required fields for the due diligence sheet. Okay, so I'm going to say a new niche, right? So you need a niche and you need a city. So those two are required for everyone because that's how this works. All right, so Jeff, do we have some niches there? City and a niche.
I see a smart home.
Smart home?
Yeah, smart home.
Okay,
Dallas.
We'll go with smart home, and then let's have somebody else put or if we have a city.
Dallas, he says.
Dallas. Okay, so we're going to dive into this. We've got smart home for Dallas. So you can see the first one here is average ticket cost. So the way that I would do this is I would actually call and get some quotes from people. I would just come up with, like, let's look at some of the services that they provide. All right, so we'll look up smart home. So I'm just going to start with this. Here's something called smarthome.com. So this will maybe give me an overview of what's included. It looks like there's lighting, temperature, cameras, security, door locks. It can include some other things like plumbing. I know this plumbing one, maybe it's like a sensor if maybe that's not plumbing, but I saw one where if, like, there's a leak, then it can actually, like, the moisture goes up and it will, like, text you. So we've got kind of a basic understanding of what this is. So now let's just do Smart Home Dallas, and let's see if we can look at some of these companies here. Okay, so we've got Mr. Electric in Dallas. We're not actually, I'm still kind of doing my niche research here. I want to see what they're offering: lighting, bathroom and kitchen lighting. So looks like they've got a bunch of different areas, ceiling fan. Okay, all right, so now I'm just going to ask Google. Like I said, I would call for this part of things, and I would get some quotes. I would call, look at the services and find out what they're actually offering, right? So what does lighting mean? Does that mean like when I open my garage door, the lights turn on in like the kitchen or something when I'm walking in? I would understand what that is, ask a bunch of questions, and just see if you can get like a quote over the phone. And I would call 5 or 6 of these, and let's get an average. So we'll just say how much cost to make my home smart. I don't know the best phrasing for this, but usually, there you go, right? National average cost. This is exactly what I'm looking for. 5,500, average range 2,000 to 7,000, minimum cost 1,500, max 20,000. Okay, so this gives me, here's another one. Let's compare. Maybe it pulled it from here, 5,500. It's got the exact same stuff. That probably pulled it directly from that site. Here's Home Advisor. Home Advisor saying a smaller range, which maybe they're doing that because they want to try to suck people into to try to sign up for it, and then it makes it harder for the people to close because they've used. Like I just don't trust Home Advisor. But let's go with what we saw the first time. 5,500. That seemed like that just felt more legit to me. So I'm going to go back over here, and I'm going to put in the average ticket cost, 5,500. That's great. So here's what I'm looking for. I do not want that number to be less than $1,000, right? And it actually, what you want to find is you want to find like a blend of this with the search volume associated with it. Okay, so we're going to look at the population of the city. I'll give you a word of advice. So for cities like Dallas, if I just do Dallas population, I know something about Dallas, right? I know that this is a sprawling city with a bunch of like other major cities that are stacked on top of it. If we open up this map, I know that like here's Fort Worth and Arlington, and there's like Plano and Frisco and all these other huge cities. So if you're in Vegas, what happens is like if you get outside of Vegas, then there's like desert, right? So there's not a lot. But with a city like Dallas, where it just like sprawls, you want to make sure that you get the area, because usually, okay, let's do, I don't know why that gave me the same number. I know that this area is like 8 million around here. Let's try that. Okay, 7.6 million people. So you need to think about like the type of client that you're going to have. And you know, I love cities like this because basically what you can do is you can build a bunch of different websites and go after this whole area, right? 7.6 million. It may be hard for you to find one company. If you find some guy with a truck, then he's not going to cover the entire area. But this sets you up to find like a big company, or you can do a collection of small companies. That's an easier problem to solve than like, hey, I started in this other area that is, you know, it's kind of like you got some like Green Bay maybe, or some city that like doesn't have a big population that's kind of like away from other things, then you're going to be capped. There's a downside to this that you should consider. Okay, if you go into an area like this, you're going to often run into more competition. Okay, so I think if this is your first time through this, it may be good to go with like between like 200,000 and 450,000 people, right? Let's get a win in the books. And then over time, we can start to pick on these bigger markets. So you're going to have some self-awareness to know where you fit in with this. And one of the things that I like to do is I'll go like this. List of US cities by population. You can kind of see it's in my search history from doing this in the past. So there's a wiki article right here, I believe this one, where it's going to list these cities, right? So we can go through, and this isn't going to give you the entire metro area. It's just going to give you like the actual city limits population. So New York City, obviously on top. So I'm going to scroll down here, right? And I'm going to go down to where it's like 200,000. So I'm paying attention to this column right here. So I would come down here and I'll look at this. There's Amarillo, Texas, city number 121. And what you can do, and I mean, this isn't like a hard limit. You could easily go down to 150. What you're doing here with this is you're like decreasing the population and you're decreasing your competition, right? So like if I went into a gym that had 10 people and I'm like, okay, maybe I'll be the best basketball player out of these 10 people. That's different than going into a stadium that has 100,000 people, right? So the competition is going to be way more when there's more people, right? So it's best to start off with a smaller and then build into that once you have some confidence, right? And okay, so what you can do is you can start at like that Amarillo, Texas, where was that, 121 or something, and then work your way up. Look at this. So go through these cities and these niches. Maybe you picked out a niche like the smart home, and you could work your way up this list and find a city where this is less competitive and then attack that city. So that's the part of the beauty of this business model, is the ability to decide what game you're going to play, right? Let's go pick on the people like, okay, basketball again, right? So if I am I'm tall, I'm 6'2". If I go and I play against people that are my own age, my own height, I'm probably going to win some, lose some. But if I go to a playground with a bunch of second and third graders, then chances of me being able to beat them in basketball is much higher. And that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to stack the deck in our favor. Okay, so we're going to go with this one though for this example, but I just want to make sure that that's clear. Don't just be rushing off into Dallas with 7.6 million people. And if you do go into the city, my advice is to break this into smaller cities. You can have one for Dallas, you can have one for Arlington, Fort Worth, Plano, Frisco, all the different parts. I think there's like a McKinney or something. Is this a phone-driven business? That's really important for this business model. You want this answer to be yes, because most of the time we're not going to have like a brick and mortar shop where people are coming in. We don't have that as a part of this business model. You do not want that to be the case where someone needs to come in. Okay. All right, license required. I know a lot of you guys have asked this question and you're scared about when there's a license required. I actually prefer it. I prefer that as a license is required. It keeps out the riffraff a little bit. It keeps our clients from getting undercut a lot of times, but this will work in either one. If a license is required, then you will just simply, when you start to work with someone, when the leads start to come in, you just need to ask them for their license number and say, hey, these leads are all going to you. For me to be able to do this and be able to send you these leads, it's required that I have a license number on my site. And what you do is you just put a little thing on the bottom of the website that says, we are a third-party referral service. All leads go to a license contract number, put their business name and their license number there. Okay. All right. So we've got this stuff here. Don't let this scare you that it's whether it's licensed or not. Okay. So competitor one name. Okay, so now we're going to kind of get into this. And what I want to do, one of the first things that I'll do, I'm going to get rid of this. We're going to look at Smart Home Dallas, and I'm going to pull this like this company here. It's important to know that in the Google My Business area, this changes as we move across town. So if I do a search right here where it says like 635, I don't know if you guys can see that. This is going to be different results than if I do over here in Irving. Right? As I move across town, these things are going to get shuffled all over the place. And I just chose Smart Home Dallas. So because the Smart Home starter is first here, that does not mean that they're first anywhere else. Just in this random spot that Google picked for this search, this company is first. So what we need to do is we need to find out who the top people are in town. Okay. So I'm going to start with this company, the Tex Home Theater guys, right? So to do that, I'm going to go to google.com/maps, okay? And then I'm going to put their name in here. So the that? Text home, these guys right here. So there should be 27 reviews. That's these guys. Okay. So some of the stuff that I look at, and I should have added this into the survey, is I'm going to look at their reviews. I've got that on the survey. So one of the other things I like to look at is their pictures. So I want to know a few things, and I'm not just looking for the number. I want to know if these are like legit pictures, because I believe that this matters. And I think that if you use photo stock, that it is worse. And I think Google knows. I don't think it's like a deal breaker or anything, but I like to pay attention to the small edges. So you can kind of see these look like real photos to me. This doesn't look like photo stock. This looks like someone took these of their real work, and we're going through, and it looks like they have a decent amount. They have a good amount of pictures. Okay. So when we go to build out our GMBs and we build out our sites, we're going to want to beat them in all the different categories that matter. And one of them is pictures. So like if they've got 500 pictures on here, well, I need more than 500 because I want to beat them in every category. It looks like they probably have like 20, no big deal. We can easily beat them. And even if they had a bunch, like it's not like the end all be all, but I do like to beat them and kind of like beat them in every category. And I just think that when you do that, at some point, Google's like, hey, the dominoes are going to fall. Like we don't know exactly what, like how many points it is for this and that, but we know the things that matter. And if we just beat them and all, then like the dominoes are going to fall our way. It's just a matter of time. Okay, cool. So now that we've got this, here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a heat map on that. So that's, if you guys have not seen that before, it has a lot of different important features. So when we set up this Google My Business, what we're doing is Google will send a postcard to us. We get a code off that. We put it into Google, and that verifies that we have access to a real location in the city. Okay, so once we do that, there's a unique identifier called a map URL. We need that to submit this. So if we go into research, I'm going to keep this open and I'm going to open this up in a new tab. And I'm just going to plug these guys in here. This is going to show me the rankings of this company across the entire city. All right. So we need a keyword for this. One of the ways that we can do this is we go into Google and we type in smart home. We can look down here at the bottom and kind of see smart home devices, smart home ideas. It's just so generic. Let me see here. I'll do smart home Dallas again. And so now we put a locator on here. I guess I'll just stick with smart home as my keyword. That's pretty broad. It's the thing I don't like about it, but I haven't done the keyword research on this. So I'll say smart home. And actually, I'll do smart home Dallas since that's where we are. All right. So this is going to make more sense in 1 second once we have this grid. Okay. All right. So this right here is the distance between these points. So right now, the way I have it set, it's 1 mile. If I set this here, it's going to be half a mile. So it's going to be a smaller grid. So this will give us a pretty good understanding of this city. This is a big area and a really populated area. So this is probably going to be pretty competitive. So I'm just going to click on start this heat map. You can see what this is. It's telling us the ranking of how this particular company, how they are ranking at that exact spot on the map for this term. Okay. So it looks to me like this, like you'll start after you use this a little bit, you'll start to notice patterns. And this is a really good start for this company here. They've got all greens. So when it's less than 3, it's going to be green. So they're ranking first or second in all these spots. And, so there is 13 miles or something between here and here. And then there's another like 3 miles so far. So this is probably going to be a pretty green map. Maybe this will be the top company in town. We want to know who this is. And this is a really good starting spot for us to understand how, who should we be evaluating? When we go through this and we kind of look at some of the other questions that I've prepped on here, we can look at the competitor name. We're going to add in their website, how many citations. So that is just like an address listed on another website about this one. We'll look at the backlinks. We'll talk more about that in a minute. How many pages they have, how many reviews they have. If there's a keyword in the GMB name, we will talk about their heat map ranking and heat map average. And you can see I've pulled out 3 competitors. So how do we know what competitors to evaluate? What we do not want to do is we don't want to just grab these 3 because of this random location that Google chose, right? So we need to find out, and that's what this heat map is doing, is it's telling us who the top 3 actually are across this entire city and not just in this one random location. Some of the other things that I recommend that you guys pay attention to is this organic area down here. So even though this is the area that's most important, some leads will still come from this area. I know that we've had GMBs where we've only had one GMB for a website and we've lost that GMB, but yet we continue to get leads because they're coming from this organic area. Additionally, this area down here often affects this area. So why does that matter? So if this is affecting it, and so let's imagine that this is number 1 here, this is number 2, and this is number 3. And then down here, it's the same company as number 1, and the same company as number 2, and this third company is number 3. So that's telling me that, like, hey, maybe this is a little bit tougher because it's going 1, 2, 3 here and 1, 2, 3 here. But if we know that the ranking down here impacts the ranking up here, and the people that are down here are not up here, then that tells me that there's a weakness in this market because these people are able to rank up here without ranking down here, right? So I know that's a little bit like more complicated to get your arms around, but just pay attention. If it goes 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, then it's going to be tougher. If these people are ranking here, but they're not even on the first page, then that oftentimes will be a sign of weakness, right? If you look at what we have here, you can see I've added in review count. So I'm paying attention to that. And I'm also going to pay attention to how many pages they have on their sites and a few other things in here. So the idea is after we build this out, we'll really start to have we'll have an idea of how tough these guys are. So just because this company has this does not mean that they are tough. Okay. It could mean that everyone else is not good, right? So because they have a solid green map, doesn't mean that they're great. It means they're better than this is all relative. The ranking is 2 relative to the rest of the market. So if the rest of the market is weak, then maybe they just happen to be in a soft market. So it's like they were able to outrank them, and we could easily outrank them still, right? Okay, cool. So now that this is completed, I'm just going to refresh this page real quick, and it shows up as completed. We've got it loaded.
Here's a question for you, Patrick. While that's reloading, the other Patrick is asking, when you search Smart Home Dallas, Google shows you the 3-pack. What is that based on? Is it based on your IPS when you your IP address when you search? And should you use incognito? How does that work?
So this is where the heat map comes into play. Like I wouldn't do it that way because I have no idea how Google's deciding to choose us within the city. I'm in Ohio and I'm searching in Dallas. How does it decide who it's going to show me? Because I haven't searched with my IP in this area, but when you use the heat map, the way this works is really cool because it's using like proxy to do a search from this spot, and then it's adjusting it and it's moving the longitude and latitude, and then it's doing from this spot and it's scraping the results and it's loading those results into here. So it's doing all the stuff. So each search, you get a completely clean anonymous search that's performed from this location. So this is part of, I know that a lot of you guys have landed deals and this has been really powerful for you guys for prospecting, but this is phenomenal for research and doing your due diligence for this very reason. So if we look down here, it looked to me like this is the company that we did the search on. I thought that they were going to be the number 1 company in town. Now I know they're not. They're number 2. Right? Number 1 is this company, the Smart Home Starter, whoever they are. So I can click on this. We can look at this. We see this average of 1.66. So if we were to add all these spots up and divide, so there's 169 spots on this grid because it's a 13 by 13 grid. So this right here tells us that they're appearing in 169 spots out of 169 spots. So they're in the top 20 in every single spot. It's clear for us to see that, right? Otherwise it would be red on one of the spots. So they're appearing in every spot. And if you added up all these points, they would have an average of 1.66. But this other company, Smart Home Starter, would have an average of 1.44. So this is the number 1 company. So when we go back to our sheet here, you can see competitor 1 name, right? So that's this company, right? Competitor 2 is the Tex Home Theater. And competitor 3 is this Vivint Smart Home. One thing I want to point out to you guys, I'm going to click on this. If I click on this, it's going to open up their actual GMB. So that's really nice. And notice that smart home, our keyword is in the name. Okay, so to me, that's a sign of a little bit more difficulty because they've got like I train you guys on putting the keyword in the name, right? And this is actually this is a decent name. It's a little long, but putting branding with it and then getting the name, and they've got home theater, which is probably one of their main search terms. They have 2 keywords in their name. And then they've got this like encapsulated with the techs and experts, right? So if you just peeled that off, that's a good way to do it. That's a good way to brand it. This may be a little bit long, as I said, but that's one of the factors that's on here, right? If you look down here, keyword in the GMB name, I have that on there because I believe that is, that's a smart move. And you'll find cities where nobody does that. And I like those because they don't really know what they're doing, because you should do that. So these 3 guys have done this. You can see actually almost all of these people. Look at this. All these people up from here up, they all have smart home in their names, right? And that's part of why they're ranking for this term, which is what we expect. But again, you'll find cities that don't have that. So I would pay attention to that. Okay. All right. So we know. So now if we go back and we look, I'm going to put their names in here. So the first one is the smart home starter. So I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to put that in there. And then I'm going to get the second one, which is kind of running off the screen. So I'm going to copy it from here. So this is competitor 2. So I'm just filling out this sheet as I go through this, right? So competitor 2, that's their name. And then competitor 3 is this Vivint smart home. Okay. All right. So competitor 3 down here. All right. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to pop each one of these out because we're going to need it. I think I've already got that one out there. So we'll get rid of that one and we'll pop out these guys and this smart home starter. So one of the things that you guys can do, like we said, hey, this is what the number 2's heat map looks like. If you want to see the number 1, I can just click that. And that's what their heat map looks like. It's hard to tell which one, when you're just looking at this, it's hard to tell which one is like actually better. That's why we have the averaging in here for you. If you look at this, you can kind of see where one is ranking better than the other. So for instance, in the Northwest, which is going to be the top 25% of points, they are a 1.67, they're a 1.33. So we can kind of see in the Southeast, this company, the Smart Home, is a 1.117 or 1.17. Right. So these numbers are really close. There's not much difference between this, but let's just get the order. This is exactly why we set this up for you guys. So there's no doubt to who's ranking above the other person. So the point is you want to do your due diligence on the top people because you need to beat the best people to be able to take over this market. So the first thing is identify them and then gauge how strong they are. If we were to look back on our results, wherever those were, right here, Smart Home Starter, is that number 2 company or number 1? Yeah, Smart Home Starter. Like this gives me a little bit of confidence because these guys don't even have any reviews, right? Reviews are a ranking factor. They don't have them. They're able to rank this way and kind of dominate the whole city without reviews. So that says something. I'm going to open up their website. I want to really understand how they're doing. One of the things I should probably add to the sheet that I don't have on here is the amount of content. These guys have almost no content. Okay, so if you guys want this, I'll load it into your accounts. But before I do that, I'm going to put the content in here. And here's how I'm going to do it. Here's how I'm going to determine it. I'm going to highlight this stuff, this whole page. I mean, my guess is there's less than like 200 words on this page. So I'm going to go over here and then I'm just going to type into Google word count tool. Okay, so I would take this into account. It's something that I pay attention to when we're going into it. You can see there's 400 words on this page. I would be targeting like 1,500 to 2,000 words on this page. I've heard some people doing 2,500 words. The homepage is the most important part. It's not all that matters, right? So far we've identified this site that has like no reviews. They're the number 1 company and they have not a lot of words. So there's some other reason that's contributing to their ranking. But it's not those 2 things because those are both weak. Okay, cool. So let's go back over here. We know that the smart home, is that smart home starter? Okay, so I'm going to copy their website address right here, smart home starter. Also pay attention to the fact that they actually have smart home in their domain. That does not hurt in the rankings. That's always a good thing to do. So this is their domain. And one of the things I like to do too, I'll just kind of like knock these guys out real quick. Their review count, they have 0 reviews, right? Let's look at their page count. So how can we do that? This is a trick right here. It's not 100% accurate, as some of you guys probably know, but it will give you a good idea. So if I do what's called a cite command, so I put cite with a semicolon in here and I enter, these are the pages that Google knows about. And this is what we're looking for right here. This is part of why they're ranking. They have 2,350 pages on their site. That's a lot. So if you want to beat them in all the categories, you would need more than that. I don't want to build 2,351 pages when I can go find another city that has, the leader has 6 pages and I can just build like 7 pages. I would build more than that, but just, one of the things that you should pay attention to is let's look at their pages. Some of these people don't understand how themes work or their websites. So they end up with a bunch of pages that have like garbage, right? And these guys don't have, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that these guys probably have a bunch of pages with no content, but they have so many of them that it kind of adds up, right? And maybe they're doing well in other categories too. Google is, there's like no value to this page. Like, what is this, right? There's no value to this, but they have 2,300 pages. That is a ton of pages. So I guess Google has like taken all this, put it into a blender and decided that this has value. Here you go. Okay, some of their pages apparently do have content, right? And they're linking to other things. They've got videos on here. So maybe this is some of the value, like graphs and stuff like this. Oftentimes, I believe that Google, they add more value to that. It's like, someone's like demonstrating real value when they build something out like this, and it's not just like a standard lead gen nonsense. Okay, so they've got 2,350 pages, and even though a lot of them appear to be garbage, I'm still going to go with what I found here because I'm going to be comparing this. There is a free tool that you guys can get that is pretty good. Okay, let me just set this up. So it is Majestic. You don't need a Majestic account. So you just have to pass their authentication here. So I'm going to authenticate for free. I'm not good at this CAPTCHA, so we could be here for about 40 minutes before I can get this thing figured out. So let me do my bridges. I can't tell if that's a bridge off in the distance. This is where, okay. All right. I got it the first time. All right, cool. So I'm going to look at this and I'm going to see what their backlinks look like. So what I'm looking for, actually, so it's going to run on the page that you're on. I'm not on their homepage. I want to run this on the homepage. So I'm going to go back. This is their homepage. This is where most of their links probably will be. You can see that they have 26 referring domains. That is not many. They've got 31 external backlinks. So Majestic, just a heads up for some of you guys that aren't familiar with this. A backlink is essentially a link from another website towards this site. If you think about this as like a vote, then who has the most votes? So that's how it would start out. But it's not, all the votes are not equal. Like if I were to go and ask, maybe I want to go in Best Buy and I'm going to ask someone about like some technical question about a computer, right? So the person in Best Buy, their vote on, it's an educated vote. Like they've got experience with it. They understand the different parts. But if I were to go and ask like, maybe some homeless guy who is most likely doesn't have like all this tech experience, like maybe his opinion doesn't matter as much as the expert inside of Best Buy. And it's kind of the same thing. So there's great websites. There's websites that suck. If you were to get a link from like Microsoft.com or Google.com, then your website would shoot up in the rankings. So the trust flow is talking about the quality of those links, and the citation flow is talking about the quantity. If you had nothing but good links, then there would be kind of a 1-to-1 ratio between these. You can see that there's not. So this person has links from, like most of these domains are probably not very strong domains. So that has driven up the quantity, but not the quality. Okay, so Majestic, it's free to install. You just got to do the CAPTCHA. So let's see what we have here. We have backlink count. So I'm just going to go over here and look at what that number is. If I go here, I can see that we have external backlinks of 31. You can add in more of these to the domain. I would pay attention to the backlinks. It matters. But we're just kind of doing a demonstration here. So this is going to be 31. Okay. So I'm going to put in 31. So citation count. How can we find that? So there's different tools out there that will give that to you. Hopefully these guys have a phone number on here somewhere. All right, let's look at their Google My Business real quick. These guys have no phone number. I don't know what is going on with this. Maybe these guys are the old dog in the game. They look really weak to me, other than the fact that they have over 2,000 pages. Let's look at Vivint Smart, because this will be more normal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this person's phone number, and I'm going to put it in quotes like this. And I'm also going to change it to match the format, even though Google, so you can, oops, that's these guys. All right, Vivint Home. So I'm going to use this same format. I'm going to get rid of the one, and I'm going to use that format. I'm actually going to go and visit their website. I want to see how they have it on their website, what format they used. Okay, is this like a national company or something? It's kind of what it feels like. All right, so I'm going to actually use this phone number, I think, and I'm going to use it with their name. Okay, so just give me 1 second. What we're trying to do is we're trying to see how often this shows up on the internet for their stuff. I'm just going to pull this over to another screen real quick. Basically, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get the number of citations on here. This is looking for this exact word, and this is looking for this phone number. So when you have them both on here, then both of these have to be found, right? Or you get something that says no results found. So what I'm going to do real quick, I just want an example of this working in action. So I'm going to say plumber, Dallas, Texas, and I'm just going to grab a plumber real quick because I want something that's more local with this. All right, so we'll see this Tribeca Plumbing here, and let's pull this up real quick there. So you can see Tribeca Plumbing Inc. So I am going to try it in this window here. We'll go Tribeca Plumbing Inc. And I'm going to put their phone number in here, 214-402-5454 with my other quote. Okay, this is exactly what I was looking for. 132 results right here, and you can see all the different places that they're listed. So these are citations. If I open this up, I can take a look at this Manta site here. God, I hate these CAPTCHA things. Is there any other boats? All right. Boats. Oh, I missed one. Okay, cool. So this is what a citation can look like, right? This is their address on here. It's got their phone number. It's got a link to their website. It's got like a business description, and these can look different. Like they can have more and less of these parts, but the point is they have 132 of these. So when we go, we're going to, back to what we're doing here, we're going to want to make sure that we're beating them in this category, right? So with this smart home guys, it's hard to get a clean citation count on what they actually have, because it's like, they're a national company. So there's like 15,000 citations or places where their company is listed with their phone number, but then there's like none that have their GMB number. So it's just a little bit hard to gauge that. They do have this in their, the keyword was in their name. It was like most of their name, right? If we go back to the heat map, we can see smart home starter, right? And this is, their ranking is 1. So they're the first company. They're the top ranking company. Their heat map average is a 1.44. So that's the next box, right? So we will make them a 1, right? And this is a 1.44. Problem here is I chose the type of field I chose for this. I shouldn't have chosen number. Now it doesn't let me do a decimal. But imagine there's a decimal in there. I will get that updated for those of you guys that want us to install this in your account. And then you go through it and you're going to put these for each one of these. So let's imagine, I'm just going to make up some numbers here because now you guys know the process, right? So let's imagine that this was like not a national company, and they had 100 citations, or that other company that we just saw, the Tribeca Plumbing, they had 132. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to compare these, right? I'm going to fill out this sheet for each one of these. And at the end of it, when I click on save, it's going to ask me to rank the difficulty of this niche, right? So I'll click save. And based on the information that I have here, how tough is this niche? That's what we're trying to look at here. So based on what I've seen so far, I would rate this about an 8 out of 10. I'm sorry. I'm going to rate this about, I'll put it as a 6, because I think this is a tougher niche to get into. I think you're going to be competing against some national competitors that have big sites, that have a lot of citations. I saw that the smart home, like some of the things that are contributing to their strength is the amount of pages. I think that they've probably got like, citations from all these different places around the country. They don't have a lot of backlinks. So that's like bringing it down. I would say this is a niche that you could certainly beat. It's not like going into like plumbing in Las Vegas or something like that, where there's a few million, or plumbing in Dallas, right? If you're doing that, you're just competing against like thousands of companies, and you're going to run into some really, really tough people. However, I would like to see, there's niches that you'll find where they don't even have a website and they don't have any reviews. Like this one didn't have reviews. So maybe we could actually rank this as like a 7 opportunity. So this is like not a great niche. This is an excellent opportunity. That's where I would put it based on what I've seen so far.